Hey everyone, my name is Alec and welcome to another edition of MASL Midweek, where I break down the past and predict the future for the MASL. We have all sorts of things to talk about this week. We have some things from last week to talk about. We have a lot of games to predict from this week, and we're trying out a brand new segment this week. So let's get to it. Let's start off by breaking down the games from last week. We only had two of them, and both of those games were the Sockers playing at the Ambush, and the Ambush came away with 2 wins from those games. And I want to talk about these games, but I'm going to focus on Friday's game because that's the game I was able to watch most of. The big takeaway I had from these games was the Sockers and their offensive woes. They are continuing. This team is just not clicking offensively. I thought they were starting to get into some sort of rhythm during the Sunshine series. Apparently not. Their offensive woes were very much there this week, and it was strange to watch them play. It wasn't so much that they weren't generating opportunities. They were. They just weren't finishing. They had some wide open shots that they were missing. It just didn't feel like the Sockers that we're used to. And to be honest, this game could have been worse for the Sockers because the Ambush had a lot of opportunities themselves that they were not able to finish because Vanzella had an incredible game in goal. So right now the Sockers, man, they're just having some troubles. I thought they were getting back into a rhythm last week. Apparently not. And we're at the point now where if I was a Sockers fan, I would be pretty concerned. Which brings us to a brand new segment that I want to try for this series, and that is the compliment sandwich. So for those of you who don't know, if you're a manager or if you're a supervisor and you're giving feedback to those you supervise, or really if you're giving feedback to anybody, one of the models that people use is the compliment sandwich. You start off by telling them something good that they are doing, then you talk about where they need to improve, and then you finish off by giving them a compliment or something positive. So I want to try this for the MASL. Every week I want to talk about something that was really positive that came out of the league, one area where they could improve, and then we'll wrap up by focusing on a positive. So the first positive I want to focus on this week comes from St. Louis, specifically Friday's game, which was their retro game where they had the St. Louis Steamers playing against the San Diego Sockers. I thought this was beautifully done. The online presentation was wonderful. It sounded like the in-person presentation was great as well. All around, well done by St. Louis. And on top of that, the game itself was pretty awesome. Now it's time for the more critical part of my sandwich and my growth opportunity for the league. And I want to talk about kind of a specific detail, but it's one that stands out to me nonetheless. And that is the Kansas City Comets teasing a playoff date, I believe on March 26th. There's a few things that I would change about how this was done. First of all, I wouldn't have a single team teasing the playoffs. I think that is something that should be done by the league as a whole. We shouldn't see that on the Kansas City Comets Facebook page. We should see that on the MASL's Facebook page. After all, the playoffs is not something that just features one team. It is a league-wide endeavor. I would also be more direct about announcing the playoffs. I wouldn't have this kind of teaser out there. For me, teasers are great for things like theme games and new uniforms and things like that. But something that is official business like the playoffs, I think that should be a direct announcement with none of these little teasers that lead up to it. So for the future, I would like to see the playoffs announced by the league, and I'd like to see them directly announced instead of these little teasers building up to them. And then for the last part of our compliment sandwich, this wasn't last week, but I still really want to give the league a shout out for this. A couple weeks ago, I posted on one of the Facebook groups a complaint about how the league didn't really promote the Sunshine series as much as I would like to have seen them. And pretty quickly after that, we had Brian, who I believe was representing the league, step in and ask for more details from me about what I would like to see. And he was very open to hearing those details, and it sounded like they would take that into consideration in the future. And I want to give massive props to the league for that. It's awesome that they're listening to feedback from the fans. I think that is awesome. I think it's a recipe for success. And that's one of the reasons that I want to try this segment out. I really want it to be constructive criticism. I want it to be stuff that the league thinks about. I know, I'm not an expert when it comes to sports management, so there's probably some suggestions I have that won't make sense, but at the very least, I hope the league will listen to them and consider them. And with that, let's move on to predicting some games from this week. We'll start off on Friday with the Ontario Fury paying a visit to the St. Louis Ambush. A few weeks back, these two teams played 2 games and the Fury swept them. But during that time, the Ambush were badly hit by COVID. This is going to be an interesting game. I think these two teams are very evenly matched, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's probably my game of the week, and boy, is it tough to pick a winner in this one. I go back and forth on this, but I think the Ambush are going to win. I think the fact that they are the home team is what gives them the slight edge in this one. I still think Ontario is a terrifying team. They're playing very well right now, but the Ambush, they played pretty well last week as well, and now that they are fully healthy, I think they can take down the Fury. Then on Saturday, we have the Kansas City Comets hosting the Tacoma Stars. The Stars, kind of like San Diego, I feel like their offense really isn't clicking right now, and that's going to be a problem against the Comets because the Comets have a high-powered offense. I think Tacoma's defense will play reasonably well against the Comets' offense, but that Comets' offense is just so good. I don't think the Stars are going to be able to keep up, so I'm picking the Comets. Then on Sunday, the Tacoma Stars hop on over to St. Louis to play the Ambush, and I'm picking the Ambush to win this one. Overall, I think the Ambush are playing better right now. And on top of that, the Stars, they're playing an afternoon game after an evening game. They're on the road. The deck is just stacked against Tacoma in this one, so I'm picking St. Louis. Then finally for this weekend, we have the Kansas City Comets hosting the Ontario Fury. And boy, is this an interesting game. We have two teams that are just playing really well right now, especially on offense. So I'm really looking forward to this one. And a lot like the other game with the Fury from this weekend when they're playing the Ambush, I have a tough time picking a winner in this one. But I'm going to go with the Fury to win this one. Mostly because while both of these teams have an incredible offense, the Fury have a better defense. And I think the fact that Kansas City is prone to defensive breakdowns really plays in the Fury's favor. The Fury is so good at breaking down defenses. It's a systematic approach. It is a thing of beauty to watch. And I don't think that bodes very well for the Comets. So I'm picking Ontario to win this one. And with that, I think I can wrap this episode up. But thank you for watching. While you're here, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. And I will see you next time.